All right, everybody. My name is Richard.lesperance, and I go by the name of my man Richard. Welcome to a better lifestyle. Today, this is part two with my conversation with Russell Andrews. So he's an actor, producer, director, and an author. He's been featured in films like Peppermint with Jennifer Garner, Straight Out of Compton, something that Dr. Dre had produced, and also he has done TV series. He's been in the Defenders with Jim Belushi. So I think you guys are gonna like this part two because he has more stuff to say. So please, Russell, the last time we left off, we were talking about the journey and the struggles and making it in Hollywood. I want to talk about. I think now you have the book. You have a book out. Can you talk to us a little bit about the book?
Yeah, Richard. The book is it's called Shoes. It is. I've had the story for years, and I've had it for years because it's a true story. The book, I call it a children's book, but it fits in the young readers category. Um, I don't know, fourth grade to 8 to 13, 8 to 15. Kids are so sharp right now. 8-year-old can grab it, but the context of it works up through middle school and beyond. There are parents buying it right now, which I'm really impressed with and very proud of. Humbled, I guess, is a better word. Um, I met the family that the book is about 38 years ago in Houston, where I was living. I think I told you yesterday that's my home in Texas. And it was at a resale shop, uh, Salvation Army to be exact. I I like going in and out, old hats, things like that. I mean, it's not foreign to me. Um, we had, I guess, a reasonably normal life, but resale and Salvation Armies are not at all something I'm not used to at all. And I happened to be in one that day. I was a young man in my early 20s. I saw this family come in, and it was a family of a mom who was a domestic. Um, Her son, Junior, who is my lead character in the book, and his two siblings. They were about 5 and 6. I don't know the exact age. And I'll tell you what's unique and still fascinating to me is the only reason I knew the young man's name was Junior is because that's what the young ones called him, and that's what his mother called him. I don't know her name. All I heard her referred to was Mama, which in the South is very common. That's why I call Mama, right? And Junior had a somewhat of a limp. It was not something that was distracting, but you can tell he labored a little bit with his walking. And they came into the store. The little kids ran in, went straight to these old toys. All these resales have their sections. But they came in, and again, it was so common for them, they knew where to go. And the mom was waiting and holding for Junior to come in, and he was making his way into the door. Where I was, my vantage point, I can see out the window out to the street. I saw them get off the bus and come in. I was fascinated because immediately I said, oh my God, it looks like me. Not in terms of his physicality, but the picture of the mom, you know, and her kids. And my mom was domestic when we started out. And the people she worked for, the Williamsons, who are in the book, I devoted a whole chapter to them. And I say chapter book, they're short chapters, but I wanted it like that. I didn't want to just fly through. I wanted to give the young readers, those who are not familiar with chapter books, at least a taste of how they work, story to story. I watched them. I watched them, and I felt kind of weird at some point, thinking, "Why am I watching these kids in this store and watching this mom?" But I couldn't take my eyes off them, which leads me to this point. I never met them. I never spoke to them. I've had the story for 38 years, but I've never seen them again. I saw them then for about that hour and a half. Again, I won't say entertained. I shouldn't say that. That's not why they were there, but I was so moved by what was happening. And the kids were playing, and Junior got them situated, and his mom went off to do what she had to do, that I'll put a pin in for 1 second. And Junior made his way over to the shoe rack. And I'm watching, oh, everybody's got their thing. But again, the familiarity of the store to them. It's like when we go shopping, I don't know what your major department stores are forgive me, we have the dogs meeting outside this morning. I don't know what your major department stores in, but they were there as if they were really doing their thing, and to them they were. Again, I've been there. It turns out, though, Richard, that they were in there shopping, not in a casual sense. The mom was getting married the next day, and this is their thing. And I overheard them speaking there. Forgive all that as well. I heard them speaking, and I was floored, thinking, "Oh my God!" I mean, the things we throw away, people make lives out of them. And this is what was happening at the time as I witnessed. So I kept watching and watching, and Junior made his way over to the shoe rack. And again, in resale stores, none of that some is salvageable, and but some isn't. And the whole thing unfolded. He was looking for a pair of sneakers that he'd never owned. And again, I heard this as he's telling this older gentleman who was trying to help him, and a very honorable kid, very well mannered, and I can't speak to his level of intellect, but his passion and character were vivid. And he wanted this pair of shoes that he saw, and they were a pair of old Converse, what we call back in the day Chucks, right? Chuck Taylors. Um, and they happened to be there. And they were old. And they were unusable. And he sat down on the floor and he tried them on, and they didn't quite fit. So he took off a shoe, took off a sock, added it to the other foot, tried it on. Still a little big, but he lit up. I lit up. Again, I'm this very emotional cat. Even at that age, I've never had fear of expressing my emotions, but I had to hide what I was feeling at the moment because, again, I'm watching this woman's kids do their thing in this store. And it's like they were in Macy's, and it was joy on their face and whatever. He finally took the shoes to his mom over at the counter, and she told him, from what I can hear, and again, I paraphrase now, but the situation was she could not buy them. They didn't have enough at the time to buy them. However, she promised she would do something nice for him. He didn't argue. He said, "Okay, Mama," and she was sad, and he was too, and I was, the woman at the counter was, the little kids were, because Junior was the guy. He was the man of the house, and everybody respected him, and they all wanted, I won't say for him to win, but they wanted this for Junior, and it couldn't happen. He took them back. and to put him on the rack. And the older gentleman he was speaking to before said to him, "You like those?" He said, "Yeah, I do, but I can't get them. My mom's getting married tomorrow." And again, I'm floored. Oh my God. And I'm thinking, Richard, I won't say that I'm not the most religious person because I believe, but at this moment, I felt like something was happening that I needed to see. And I was being shown. You know, God has a way of getting your attention sometimes. And he had his hand around my my throat at the moment, you know. Um, and the man said, "Well, did you look at the bottom?" And he said, "No, so it's okay. I didn't. I'll 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 be okay. My mom's going to get something nice for me." He said, "No, look and see what it says." And the kid looked. It said NC. And the man said, "You know what that means?" He said, "No, I don't." He said, "It means no charge." I was done. You hear me done. I'm over here behind them old hats and wraps trying to wipe my eyes, but I couldn't stop watching them. He said, "You mean they're free?" He said, "Yeah, if you want them." He said, "Yeah." And the dude reached into his pocket. And again, man, it took me 38 years to write this. One, because who would believe it? But secondly, I didn't want to sell it. I just didn't want to forget it. He reaches into his pocket. He gives this kid a pair of brand new shoelaces. And he said, every basketball player needs new, he called them shoestrings. He gave them to the kid. The kid was lit up. And Junior turns, and in the way that he could, he made his way over to the counter. He was telling the story to his mom. And it's like, she said, "Baby, I told him to do something nice for you." He said, "No, no. That man said I can have them." She said, "What man?" He turned to point. The guy was gone. I'm in the store. I didn't see where he went. Now, granted, he could have went anywhere. In all of the milieu, whatever was happening, he probably walked out the store. I don't know, or in the back room. I don't know. But the woman at the counter said, "Miss, sometimes we have items that we just can't sell, and we mark them NC. So if he would like them, he can have them." Man, it was over for me. Over. And I watched them and all the joy and all that happened at the counter. And they gathered their things. Mom had bought like some curtains and some other stuff, you know, for the house to get situated tomorrow. Man, they left that store. I, I, there's so many cliches and so many ways to explain the joy, but I think the joy came from me watching them. And they left, and I was there for a hot minute, and I left, and I never saw them again. But I've had this story, and I wrote that part of it. But Richard, to get them to the store to make it a full book, what would I do? I didn't know them. I hadn't seen them. I didn't know. So what I did, I added portions, sections of my life, which was very common to this kid. And what also took so long, I didn't want to exaggerate moments, you know, so I had to be fearless about the fact, you know, who my mom worked for. She worked for these white people who were honestly really cool. And it was in the South, in Houston, in the 60s. My grandmother worked for them. It was that kind of shit, right? Oh, I'm sorry to say that. It was that kind of thing, but they were who they were. And that was actually the only family we knew like that. But to be able to tell that story and to give a visual to that mom, I had to put my mom in that place, which is where she was, and how we navigated life, how we, you know, took the bus to church. Mom would take a bus across town to their house, do her thing, take that bus back. 77 Liberty was the bus, right? And to connect at this, I think, 8600 Sophomore downtown. And we would meet there, do the shop, go back to the crib. So I had to add all of those elements, but I had to do it through Junior's POV, which was mine as a child. But again, I've never seen them again. Junior would be 48, 49 years old right now. I don't know his lifestyle. I pray that he's alive. I pray that he has children. And my dream of dreams is that by some odd chance, the book crosses their paths. And not that he would know, but that would mean the world to me if he saw it. Um, so that's the book. That's well, it's much more. What I gave you was pretty much one of the chapters toward the end, but that's the book, and that's what motivates me. And I've committed to writing 3 because I want to get Junior in my mind through high school, and we'll see what happens from there.
You've worked with James Avery, Uncle Phil,
James is my friend.
Fresh Prince of Bel Air, for people who don't know. What was that experience like?
I was my first play that I produced was Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and it was August Wilson's first big Broadway show. And August was a friend and mentor as well for 20 plus years. I was going to produce a play here in Los Angeles because, again, you can do a play here. It's like an actual audition. You never know who's going to walk in. You never know who's going to see it. We spoke yesterday about it. LA is not a theater mecca, but very good work goes on here rather. And I'd taken my family over to Leimert Park. It was a coffee shop. I knew the guys, the twins, who owned the coffee shop. When we were going there, and James was sitting there with Glenn Turman, to be exact, who I'd known, not really, really close, but I'd known him a couple of years, and they were sitting there having coffee. And my intent was not to interrupt them. I didn't go for the purposes of trying to cast my play. Matter of fact, I didn't have the money. I had the rights because I would call August and get the rights. I didn't have the money. But I walked in and I saw them sitting there. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is my shot. This is my one chance. And I walked over to the table. And to be honest with you, I didn't go to speak to James. I went to speak to Glenn because I had a little passing relationship. And I said, good morning. Hey, brothers, how you doing? Always that very casual thing. And they, everyone spoke. And I said, Glenn, listen, man, I got this play. I'm going to produce it. It's a Wilson. Well, everybody knew August. He was blowing up, and he is, I won't say our Shakespeare, hell, he's the world's, one of the world's greatest writers. And I said, I'm going to produce. James didn't let me finish. I had never met him. He said, I'll do it. And again, doing theater in Los Angeles, 99 seats, it's like off Broadway. It's really, really good theater, but there's no money. So I'm talking to Uncle Phil, right? And Uncle Phil says, I'll do it. And I said, really? So Glenn, bless his heart, Glenn said, well, let me think about it. Blah, blah. I said, okay, well, James said, what's the play? I said, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. He said, I'm in. I was good. Matter of fact, I was so stunned I couldn't speak anymore about it. I said, listen, give me a number and I'll get the script to you. And again, I'm talking to Uncle Phil. I told you yesterday, brother, I'm a fan of people. And I don't say it to their face. I don't want to look as stupid as I sound, but even after all these years, and I got this number. And then the goal became, how do I find the money? How do I get the rest of the cast? And what theater am I going to use? I had nothing. I was just kind of bullshitting my way through it, and he said yes, so now I had to do it. He became my first company member, absolute first. James would come to rehearsal 2 hours early. He would leave an hour late. He was that kind of dedicated actor. What most people saw was Uncle Phil, which was wonderful, but he was classically trained, and he was a wonderful human being. In the last play I produced, I took on tour. We were in Houston, and he fell ill from his he was diabetic, and James I don't believe ever got on stage again. Um, we were able to get through Houston, but he couldn't even do opening night for us. Um, but our friendship lasted a while. I'm still in touch with his wife Barbara, who's a wonderful woman. And yeah, that's how I started my company. I won't say accidentally, but I didn't put my foot in my mouth, but I exposed myself, and I had to come through. And the universe said do it, and I did, and it worked out.
What would you say to someone who wants to go into that industry of acting? Whether it's acting, producing, directing, or even starting in plays.
Well, that's a good end on that question. Um, Theater, the training, the discipline, the family aspect of it. Because again, I said to you yesterday, we do in 3 years. I'm sorry, in 3 hours, more than some people do in 3 months. And I don't say it facetiously. I just say there is so much involved of the rehearsal time, the time spent on and off stage, backstage, with so much time spent before the audience ever sees the play. We've created characters. We've taken things off the page, right, and developed them. But we've also created relationships backstage, things that we pray that are lasting friendships. All of them aren't. That there's I got names. All of them aren't, but most of them are. I would say do that as a way to cut your teeth. Theater is a gym, if you will, for actors. I think some people are fortunate, if not blessed, to fall into the right situation at the right time. All of a sudden, they get off the bus from Kentucky, and 3 months from now, they're a star. There are some people who commit to it, and 3 years from now, they still don't have a job. It is what it is. But in theater, you can find your training, again, your focus, your discipline, and a certain amount, if not a large amount, of humility. You have to be brave. You have to be brave. Whether there's one person in the audience or 1,000, you never know what's going to happen. But your job is to tell the story. I have a friend right now on one of the best shows on television. He is my longtime best friend. I don't know if you guys get the show The Bear. And they just did a whole bunch of Emmys and, SAG Awards, Globes, and all the other things. And he plays the Ibrahim, Edwin Gibson. Wonderful man. We've known each other since we were children. Over 100 plays. Some large, most not, but he stayed in the game, and when the phone rang for this particular role and others, he's done other stuff, but this role right here, he was ready, and it was his time. And he is right now enjoying the fruits of his labor. I would say do theater. Theater is like home cooking. It's like when you go out in the world and the world beats your ass, which it can, and you go home and the only arms that are there are your mom or your wife or your woman, your husband or whoever. Those arms that were going to hug you regardless of what happened out there. That's what theater does for me. It is a very peaceful place. Again, I think I told you yesterday, if I had a choice, that would be my life. That would be it. There's nothing like rehearsal. Nothing, nothing like rehearsal. It's long, it's tedious, but boy, you find out who you are. You find out who you in this business. I can't speak to. I've done other things, actual real jobs, you know, boots, jeans, labor, ties, suits, whatever. I've done jobs, wait tables, driven limos. I've done everything to supplement my career in this business. But I would start with theater, and I would have some type of job so you can buy food until you get that job you're looking for. Let's be serious. I got a lot of stories about the business, but I have a lot more about the business of the business. And that's the thing that if I can share anything with anybody, for every Issa Rae, there are 1,000 who are on the bus, on the plane, in their cars, driving back home. It's a tough business. It's a tough business. But there's a place for you if you're willing to stay, because again, that phone will ring, but what are you going to do? Will you be prepared? I tell you this one thing, it's important. I'm sorry I'm long-winded on this. A friend said to me years ago, he said, Russell, if you audition and you don't get the role, it's not that you're wrong. You may not be what they want, but you're not wrong. He says, because if you're wrong, that means your mom was wrong. Your father's wrong. Your brothers, your sister, your schooling, your upbringing, your environment, all of your dreams, everything that makes you you, which is what we use as artists, all that's wrong, and that's not true. Obviously, I never forgot that. He's passed now. But there's so much to it. It's so much more than learning your lines. There is so much more, and it's so worth it. And it's so gratifying. And everybody's success is not the same. It is not. And when we try to measure what we do or what someone else does based on what we do, it's not fair to us. It's not fair. But life isn't. It doesn't mean you don't get up and participate, no.
All right. So where can people see your work right now at the moment?
At this very moment, I've got so many things running in rerun. However, I will say this, and I'm trying to hold it. I don't want to give away too much. The lady, the woman, my friend who brought us together, publicist and film director, LaChris Jordan, we just finished the script for Shoes, to be exact. And, we're going to throw up in the universe that we go into production early summer. That is the number one goal. It looks good. As a matter of fact, you know what? It's going to happen. But I just don't like getting ahead of myself. I do a lot of commercials. I just did one recently. So there are other projects that, again, you can't speak of, because until that check is cashed, you don't want to talk about it. So soon. And the website, the IG, I will post all of those things, forthcoming. Um, and again, man, shoes. I'm trying to do something with shoes I never thought I would do, but you look for these things. You can be in this business 30 years and never get that one job with your name on it. But I was able to in theater with August Wilson and the life I've had because of him, and Jitney, to be exact, the play that um, one of them rather that I'm known for, and some TV things and whatever. But what I'm about to do with shoes, I can only throw it out to the universe, out to the heavens, and say, you know what? If it's supposed to be, it will, and I feel like it will. I'm not going to be silly and overly melodramatic and say I want to do this for Junior. What's going to happen between me and Shoes and me and Junior is already written. It's already been given. I witnessed that man child, and he changed my life. That's one little thing that I have recorded. I use as part of the marketing is, what if I told you 38 years ago, I met a young boy and his family, and that changed my life forever. Now, what if I told you I never saw them again? That's where I'm moving forward with Shoes. And until it's done, that will, even as jobs come up, Shoes will always be until I get it done. And I see it being done, Richard. I see it as I'm looking at you. That will always be my next job. It will always be listed as my next job.
Remind me where people can find you on social media or the internet.
ARussellAndrews.com. Excuse me. Yeah, all one word, ARussellAndrews.com. Instagram is A.Russell.Andrews. And again, you'll see the pictures. If it's not me, it'll be me in the book, Shoes, And actually, Richie, I'm sorry I wasn't prepared. Give me 1 second. I'll show you the cover. I don't know if you can see this, but this is Shoes. And the art is by this brother, Victor Ananobi. He's a very talented artist, Nigerian brother. And yeah, this is it. And you can Google this. And when this comes up in your Google or whatever your search platform is, me and my websites and all of the links to social media, it's all there. And yeah, man, that's my story, in a nutshell.
All right, you guys, you heard it. Thanks, Russell, for being here. That was Russell Andrews, actor, producer, director, and author. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. Welcome to A Better Lifestyle. My name is Richard.Lesperance, and I go by the name of my man Richard. And we'll see you on the next episode, everybody. Bye.
My brother, thank you, Richard.
No problem. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Peace, man.
Yeah.